Imagine getting straight to the heart of a company's latest performance, all the critical stuff from their financials, their strategy, without wading through endless jargon. That's basically what we're doing today.
Exactly.
We're diving deep into KPI Green Energy Limited. They're a really significant player in India's, booming renewable energy scene. We'll unpack their Q1 FY26 results and what they're planning next.
Yeah, and this isn't just going to be a numbers game, that we'll definitely cover those. It's more about understanding the why, isn't it? Why are they doing so well? What cool innovations are they actually using? And how are they living up to that tagline, powering India by the power of nature?
Right.
I think there are some pretty surprising things in here that might change how you think about green energy and, well, corporate impact generally.
Okay, so to really get a grip on where KPI Green Energy is heading, we kind of have to start with the bottom line, right? The numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like an incredible quarter. Not just good,
Mm-hmm.
but actually record-breaking growth.
And not just a record quarter. This is their 5th consecutive quarter hitting their highest ever revenue.
Fifth. Wow. Okay, so in a field like renewables, which is, let's face it, super dynamic, really competitive, what does that kind of, sustained performance actually tell us?
Well, that's the key thing, isn't it? It's not just a blip. It says a lot about how they run things, their discipline, how they handle market changes, and just, frankly, their ability to execute. So for Q1 FY26, their total revenue jumped by a massive 75%. It hit 614.12 crore.
75% compared to what last year?
Compared to 349.85 crore in Q1 last year, so a huge leap. And profit after tax, the PAT, that also climbed significantly,
Right.
up 68% to 111.32 crore.
Okay, solid profit growth too. And I see their EBITDA, that's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Right.
That grew 64% to 216.90 R. And profit before tax, PBT, also up 64%. Even the earnings per share, EPS, saw a really healthy 44% jump.
Yeah, to 5.28.
So, taken all together, what's the story these numbers are telling about the company's health and strategy?
It's a story of strength, really. These aren't just good numbers. They back up what the company talks about: consistent execution strength, strong customer relationships, and increasing scale. It shows they can win big projects, sure, but also deliver them well, profitably.
Right.
So if you're watching this space, maybe as an investor, maybe a competitor, these consistent results are a sign of a very robust, well-managed operation.
And it's not just about reinvesting the growth. They've actually declared a dividend for shareholders.
They have a first interim dividend, 4%, which works out to 0.20 per share.
Okay.
And they're planning to pay that out pretty quickly, within 30 days. So a direct return to shareholders, always a good sign.
Definitely. So with this strong financial base, what are they actually doing with it? Where are they heading strategically? This is where it gets interesting, I think.
It does. They're not just sitting still. They're making some really significant moves to expand their horizons.
Yeah, I saw they got approval to raise, 700 crores? Through green bonds?
That's right. INR 700 crores via non-convertible certified green bonds.
Okay, so for a renewable company, how important is that specific type of funding? The green label.
It's very significant. Partly it's branding, of course, it aligns with who they are, but practically it taps into this growing market of sustainable finance. There are investors actively looking for these kinds of green, environmentally focused opportunities, so it can potentially mean better terms, more dedicated investors. It signals market confidence, too.
Makes sense, and it fuels more projects, presumably.
Absolutely, and we're seeing that. They landed a letter of intent, an LOI, from GUVNL, that's the Gujarat State Utility, for a 150-megawatt wind power project.
Wind. Okay, so that's a notable move beyond just solar, isn't it?
It is a diversification. Plus, their subsidiary, Sundrops Energy, they got a repeat order, a big one, 100 milliW solar project in Gujarat.
Repeat business. That's always telling.
Exactly, and it's the full package EPC, so engineering, procurement, construction, plus long-term operations and maintenance. It really shows that customers trust them and keep coming back.
So looking at these moves, the funding, the new projects, wind now too, it feels like they're building for the future, not just expanding current operations.
That's a great way to put it. And you see that even more clearly when you look at their partnerships. They've signed 3 really important memorandums of understanding, MOUs, with Delta Electronics India.
Delta Electronics. Okay, what areas do these MOUs cover?
They cover some critical future tech, things like battery energy storage systems, BES. That's huge.
Yeah, storage is key for renewables.
Definitely. Also, green hydrogen and EV charging infrastructure, and advanced solar PV inverters.
So basically hitting all the major trends in clean energy tech.
Pretty much. This looks like a very strategic play. They're combining Delta's, global tech expertise with their own proven ability to get things built and running in India.
The execution capability they mentioned.
Right. So they're not just aiming to build current projects, they're positioning themselves to lead on the next wave of clean energy solutions, getting ahead of the curve both in India and maybe even looking internationally down the line.
And they're being smart about where they deploy this too. I noted Sundrop's Energia also got orders for about 37 milliZevu under the captive power producer model.
Yes, the CPP segment, specifically aligned with a Gujarat policy for distributed renewables.
And that targets the commercial and industrial market, right? Which I hear is often higher margin.
Generally, yes. The C&I segment can be quite attractive, so it's smart expansion into a valuable market niche.
Okay, so strong financials, strategic expansion, future tech partnerships. Let's shift gears slightly to how they actually run things, the operations and the tech they use.
Yeah, and this is where you see some real innovation at the ground level. It's quite impressive. For instance, they were actually featured in an IBM global case study
Oh, really? For what?
for adopting IBM Maximo Renewables. It's a digital platform that lets them do real-time monitoring, predictive maintenance across more than 70 of their sites.
70 sites. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's about using data and tech for efficiency, keeping things running smoothly.
Exactly. It shows a deep commitment to operational excellence, using technology to optimize everything.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But digging into their operations, I found something maybe a bit less conventional, but really interesting. Their own solar panel cleaning robot.
Ah, yes. The robot.
It sounds almost mundane, but for a company this size, in solar, how big a deal is something like a cleaning robot?
Is my little robot vacuum at home feeling inadequate now?
Huh. Well, maybe slightly, but seriously, it's actually a very big deal and far from mundane tech. Think about where many large solar farms are dusty, sometimes arid regions. Water can be scarce.
Right.
This robot does waterless dry cleaning. It uses special brushes. That's ideal for those desert-like conditions, and it's much more sustainable for their operations and maintenance. It's about resilience.
Waterless cleaning. Okay, that's clever. What else can it do?
Well, they've deployed them across their big utility-scale plants. They're controlled via the cloud, so remote monitoring is possible. And they're fully automatic, smart enough to handle obstacles, dock themselves for charging, really quite advanced.
How many have they got out there?
Get this, over 730 of these robots are deployed.
Wow. Over 700. And they've actually filed for a patent. So this isn't off-the-shelf tech. It's a significant investment in their own proprietary solution to a real-world problem, energy loss from dirty panels.
That's genuinely innovative. And I guess all this operational data from the robots, from the sites, feeds into something central?
It does. They have what they call a Network Operations Center, an NOC. Think of it as a central command hub, where real-time monitoring, diagnostics, control for both their solar and now their wind assets too. It's all about maximizing uptime, making sure those assets are generating as much power as possible.
Okay, so highly efficient, tech-driven operations. Let's tie this back to their overall business model and their, frankly, huge ambitions for scaling up. How does it all fit together?
So fundamentally, they operate in two main ways, two core business segments. The first is captive power producer, or CPP, and this is actually the lion's share. Right now, it was 90% of their revenue in Q1 FY26.
90%, okay. And what does that involve exactly?
Basically, they develop, build, sometimes transfer, and then operate and maintain grid-connected solar projects for specific customers, helping those businesses cut their own electricity costs.
Got it. Direct solutions for clients. And the other 10%.
That's the independent power producer, or IPP segment. Here, KPI Green Energy acts more like a traditional power generator. They supply renewable power to businesses, or maybe government bodies, through long-term agreements called power purchase agreements, or PPAs.
Okay, so one is tailored client projects, the other is selling power more broadly. Makes sense.
Precisely. And look at their scale now. They've already got over 1 gigawatt of installed capacity.
Which is substantial.
It is. But what's really eye-popping is the pipeline. They have over 3 gigawatts in orders already in hand.
3 gigawatts waiting to be built.
Correct. And their ambition. The group is targeting over 10 gigawatts by the year 2030.
Wow. 10 GW. That's massive scaling in less than a decade. How realistic is that? What makes that kind of growth possible?
Well, a big part of it is having the resources ready. They've secured a huge land bank, over 6,200 acres.
Okay, land is critical.
And crucially, the capacity to connect that power to the grid power evacuation capacity of over 3.2 GW already established. These aren't small things. This infrastructure is what makes building out that 10 GW target seem, well, actually achievable, not just a dream.
But they've laid the groundwork.
They have, and they're already looking beyond current projects. They're active in tenders, they're planning projects in things like floating solar, which is interesting. Green hydrogen, too, they're planning a 1 milliW captive plant, aiming for it to be running in FY26. Offshore wind is on the radar, and of course, battery storage.
So constantly pushing into the next frontiers.
Seems to be the approach.
Okay, this brings us to something that honestly really stood out for me when looking into them. It's their impact beyond the financials. There seems to be a really deep commitment here.
I agree. That's what makes their story quite compelling, I think. The KP group, the parent group, is involved in some really significant humanitarian and environmental work. It feels like it's part of their DNA, not just a CSR add-on.
Let's talk specifics. On the environmental side.
Well, they've planted over 500,000 trees, including mangroves in Gujarat, which are ecologically vital. And they've developed 2 Amrit Sarovars. These are basically man-made ponds or reservoirs crucial in water-scarce areas.
That's tangible environmental work. And what about the impact of their actual renewable energy generation, the IPP side?
The numbers there are pretty staggering when you scale them up. Their IPP portfolio's contribution is estimated to be like planting around 3 million trees every year,
Wow.
saving about 130 million liters of water annually. And get this, saving roughly 7 billion tons of CO2 annually.
7 billion tons. How do you even visualize that?
It's hard. But one comparison they use is it's like taking over 500,000 gasoline cars off the road every single year.
Okay, that puts it in perspective. That's a massive environmental dividend.
It really is. It shows the scale of impact renewables can have.
And they seem just as active on the social development side, too.
Very much so. In education, for example, they've adopted 8 schools. 5 are government schools. One's a college for disabled students. They've distributed over 10,000 books, sponsored scholarships for more than 13,000 students.
That's significant investment in education.
Yeah. And in community health, too. Things like redeveloping rural childcare centers, Anganwadis, organizing blood drives, providing medical equipment like BiPAP machines, free meals at hospitals, supporting cataract surgeries for people who can't afford them.
It's a very broad range of community support.
It is. And then there's the economic impact, beyond their direct employment. They estimate their operations and initiatives help create something like 3 million jobs indirectly and generate around 70 crores in rural income each year.
So when you look at all this, the environmental work, the social initiatives, it really does seem to align with those core values they talk about, doesn't it?
Right.
Being ethical, transparent, eco-conscious, promoting diversity.
Absolutely. It feels integrated, not separate, which is, I think, quite noteworthy.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We went from those record-breaking financials through their strategic moves into wind and future tech, their operational innovations like the cleaning robots.
The 10 GW ambition.
Right, the huge scaling plans, and finally this deep commitment to environmental and social impact. It's a really comprehensive picture.
It is. Hopefully, for you listening, you now have a much more rounded view of KPI Green Energy. It's clearly a company that's focused on growth, yes, but also seems genuinely invested in shaping a sustainable energy future and making a difference in its communities.
So the final thought maybe for you to chew on.
Yeah, think about this. When you see a company like KPI Green Energy deeply involved in the green transition, performing well financially, and having this broad positive impact, what does that tell us? These aren't just potential investments, are they? They're key players tackling huge global issues, climate change, sustainable development. So, how does seeing this level of integration, this blend of profit and purpose, maybe change your outlook on the future? On what businesses can and maybe should achieve? Something to think about.